Good day and greetings from Pretoria, South Africa. My name is Dr. Charles Cotter. I'm the Learning Navigator of the Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program, part of the e-learning series. This is an on-demand learning program and comprises of 6 modules. Each of the registered learners will receive a SlideShare presentation per module, and then also a detailed workbook which comprises the content, but also a series of learning activities, which I'll expect you to complete at the end of each of these modules. I think this is probably the best way of continuing the engagement and also to stimulate discussion between the Learning Navigator and the registered learners. As a form of introduction, I'd like to give you a quick overview of my professional pedigree. Essentially, I've been in the field of education, training, and development for the last 19 years. Of those 19, 15 as an independent contractor. I've been very privileged to have worked for over 140 different companies, both in the public and private sector. And of course, this stretches across 18 different countries and 4 different continents. My area of subject matter expertise is strategic management, change management, and also strategic human resources management. Welcome to Module 6. If I could give you a quick overview of the 2 key learning outcomes. As I mentioned in the introduction, we're going to look at the best practice principles and processes with regards to virtual teams. Also, you'll see this module includes an online survey and also a series of reading articles. In fact, there are 3 reading articles and also 2 video clips. The second main outcome of Module 6 is to look at employee wellness, especially during a time of crisis and in disrupted working environment. And again, this will be complemented by a reading article and video clip. Perhaps I could start off this module with a quotation, something that I formulated in April earlier on this year. And this relates to what I said previously with this module, that probably 2 of the primary competencies with regards to change management and leadership in a crisis. Number 1, we need to become behavioral economists, but we need to understand the dynamics, also the mechanics and the analytics of jobs. And secondly, to be an innovative solutions architect. When it comes to crisis-induced problem solving, we are surrounded by a plethora of noise and clutter. Let's be decisive and not divisive. Let's be single-minded and not submissive. Let's be captivated and not captured. Let's be composed and not calamitous. And let's be innovative solutions architects. In other words, troubleshooters and not imitative problem designers. In other words, troublemakers. I think you'll see as we systematically work through Module 6, the importance of decision making, the importance of innovation, the importance of problem solving becomes very apparent with the management of virtual teams, but also making sure that employee wellness is a management priority. When we start looking at the characteristics of effective teams, I think it's very clear there. The one that really stands out, of course, is appropriate leadership. I think that has been the central theme of the Change Management Leadership in a Crisis online learning module. And you're welcome to take note of both the internal and external support, which is very necessary, clear goals, relevant skills, mutual trust. I've repeatedly mentioned that as a critical success factor as we migrate through the change management process. Unified commitment. I think we said it earlier on, we have to make sure as change leaders that we are unifiers and not polarizers. Good communication, and of course, good negotiation skills, which is vital to the effective implementation of change management programs. The first reading article of Module 6 is an article written by Watkins, published earlier on this year, and it's titled The 7 Principles for Leading Virtual Teams Effectively. You'll find a full copy of the article in Workbook 6, and I'd like you to work through this. I'm just going to run through the 7 principles that Watkins refers to, and I'd like you to tackle the learning activity. I just want to fast forward to that. Learning activity 16, you'll see that this is question 16.3, that I'd like you to extract and apply what you believe are the most relevant strategies in your specific working environment. Let's get back to the 7 principles according to Watkins. First of all, he says that you need to understand that the management of virtual teams is very challenging. I think this emotional and social disconnect becomes especially problematic And this is why we said earlier on, you need to be an innovative solutions architect. We also need to establish new norms from the outset of these work from home, virtual, remote working cultures, provide more structure. I think this is very important that as change leaders, you provide that structure, which helps to cut through all the noise and also the clutter, and also give some sort of synchronicity to current working practices. Also, we've got to create rhythms and rituals, which is very typical of high-performing teams. We have to encourage informal connection, number 5. Also, number 6, and we're going to spend some time later on this with the module, motivation, productivity. These are important aspects, especially when managing virtual work teams. And as a leader, you need to demonstrate sufficient energy. You need to be enthusiastic, and of course, demonstrate your passion. This, like we said with the previous module, becomes contagious, and really it can go viral and contribute to effective team management. You may be familiar with the different stages of team development according to Tuck, and he does suggest that with permanent teams, there are 4 stages, and with temporary teams, like project teams, there is a 5th stage in adjourning. And again, I'd like you in Workbook 6 to work through the specific characteristics of each of these phases. But initially, it does start with forming, unclear purpose, lots of leadership direction and guidance is required. And of course, we don't have clear-cut consensus at this point as to the purpose of the team, the goals, the objective. There's no clearly defined leadership structure. So there's a lot of confusion and uncertainty at this point. And of course, this leads to some sort of infighting, which then, of course, leads us to the 2nd stage, which is storming. So I think the key word there is conflict. Of course, we do start to get and form some sort of clarity as to the purpose of the team, but it does become a bit of a tug-of-war, power struggle as to who's going to occupy the leadership positions, the key roles within the team, who are the power brokers, who are the most influential team members. And of course, this means that as leaders, we need to spend a lot of time on coaching, mentoring the teams to weather the storm, so to speak, and get through this very difficult stage and transition to the 3rd stage, and that's, of course, norming. For the first time in our team formation, we start to reach agreement, consensus, clear roles and responsibilities are demarcated, and of course, as a change leader, facilitation and support, like we said previously, is also very important. The 4th and the most advanced stage for permanent teams, virtual teams in this case, would be performing. Stage 4, clear vision and purpose, good communication, good achievement of the identified goals, which should have been defined and clarified in the earlier stages. And of course, as a change leader, delegation is a very useful tool at this stage. When it comes to temporary teams, you're welcome to work through that. Virtual teams, this has been adopted by many organizations, and you'll see later on I would like to use as a counterpoint an article written by the Microsoft CEO, where he cautions organizations against the prolonged use of a virtual team structure. So what I would like you to do with regards to learning activity 16 is to initially do a diagnosis of the current degree of team effectiveness. I've given you the SurveyMonkey link. I'd like you to log on and, previous to the other surveys, complete the survey. Again, it's a 10-point checklist based on the research-based criteria of effective teams. And then based on your score, you'd be able to determine the degree of team maturity. So I would like you in this assessment of 16.1 to give me an indication of whether you believe that your virtual team is at a forming stage, is it at a storming stage, performing, ultimately, which is the best practice. And I think you can use 65% as a yardstick. Anything above 65 to even 70% would suggest that your virtual team is indeed at a performing stage. Anything less than that, for example, a 35 to 40%, may suggest that you are indeed still at stage 2, which is storming. If you score perhaps 41 to the threshold of 65, you would then say that you are a well-established team who's at stage 3, and that's norming. So that will be the first question, 16.1. And then, of course, from the 10-point questionnaire on SurveyMonkey, I'd like you to identify 2 or 3 gaps. So this would be areas where you've indicated either disagree or strongly disagree. And this would then, as we've said numerous times previously, indicate the gap within the team effectiveness, which is almost constraining the team from graduating to the most sophisticated stage, and that's of course performing. So with each of these 2 or 3 gaps, I'd like you in question 16.2 to describe the strategies that you would utilize to either then graduate from a stage 2 to stage 3 or stage 3 to stage 4. And if you find from the preceding survey that you scored 65 and above, where you could potentially argue that your virtual team is at a performing stage, I would then like you to respond by indicating how you would sustain that particular stage, stage 4, the most sophisticated stage of performing. How will you maintain the momentum in stage 4? I've already alluded to the article, so you'll find this in workbook 6 and work through the article, read through it, and then, as I said previously, see how you can extract and apply the 7 principles of effectively leading virtual teams in your specific work environment. Again, I don't think this will require more than 3 to 4 pages of written essay. And of course, you again welcome in responding to these 3 questions, you're welcome to email that. I have previously shared my email address. And of course, this will lead to further discussion and engagement as to the effectiveness of your virtual team.
This is Charles Cotter signing out. I'd like to thank you for watching the video clip, Change Management and Leadership in a Crisis online learning program. Please be on the lookout for subsequent uploads on my YouTube learning channel of the other modules. Also, please have a look at the chat box section. You'll see in the comment section. If you'd like to access a copy of the workbook in PDF format, I'll gladly email that to you for this specific module, but also the other modules of the various video clips. I'd also like to remind you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please press the notification bell to be alerted of the subsequent uploads of the other modules, and also like to encourage you to reach out and contact me. My contact details and social media presence will be provided on the screen very shortly, so I'd encourage you to reach out. And of course, I would welcome any sort of communication or feedback regarding this video clip or any other learning content on my YouTube learning channel. Thank you. I appreciate your ongoing interest and active social media support. Thank you. You keep well. Bye-bye.